Tonight is Saturday, November the 11th. Happy Sunday, November the 12th. To those of you just a couple of hours to the left of me on a map. Oh boy, I hope our connection speed is good here. Maybe what I'll do before we get too deep into this, I'm actually going to turn the Wi-Fi off. A little bit better. It's Sunday, gamers. Go to church. When you get back, come back and watch this. For those of you that are watching live, we are, as I said, on the 11th, and tomorrow is an interesting day because tomorrow the new guys are going to be leaving Corvusburg, and they're going to be leaving at the same time that our solo ranger, Aragoon, shows up. So we have to figure out what happens. Now let's just take a look at what happened here. Remember that we said, Aragoon is going to head out for Harrington to sell the new guys killed a giant weasel, and they're going to pack out to Harrington, 5-day journey. They're going to sell the pelt for 1,000 gold pieces, the minimum. Apparently they hacked it up pretty good. At the same time they leave, Aragoon, who has a vested interest in learning about weasels, also finds. Now we also arrives. Now we said, okay, these guys are going here, but then, in retrospect, took a look at it and said, hey, because of the way this works out, we need to figure out what happens with these two guys running into each other. If one guy sets out in the morning, while the other guy sets out, if the new guy set out in the morning, while Aragoon leaves that camp, remember we have a camp here that's at the fork on the road. This is the old road, takes you from Harrington to Corvusburg, and this is where you camp out. It's a 1-day journey from there. That means 1, 2, 3... Let's see, 1, 2, 3. That means you're going to meet somewhere in here on the road and get to chatting. It's probably, around lunchtime when you run into each other, share a meal. The question becomes, will our new guys connect? Will they make that adventurer's love connection with Aragoon? Hey, you hate giant weasels? We hate giant weasels. Why don't we hate giant weasels together? In a normal role-playing environment, you would have one party of players with the new guys and one guy running Aragoon solo, and you would be able to, as the DM, say, hey, listen, I noticed, on last Wednesday that you guys are going to be in the same hex. What do you guys want to do? Do you want to fight? Do you want to join up? Do you want to just say hi? Do you want to exchange information? And you got a couple of days, because we work out the orders a few days in advance, we have time to kind of like retcon what happens before the new guys arrive at Harrington. So I did that exact thing, but instead of asking the new guys and Aragoon, I went to Twitter or the artist formerly known as Twitter, and I threw up a poll. I said, what are we going to do here? Is Aragoon going to connect with these guys? Is Aragoon going to be like, bro hug, let's roll together? Is Aragoon going to continue soloing? Alternatively, should we just dance with the one that brung us and go ahead and make a reaction check using the standard reaction table here in the Dungeon Master's Guide? And I'm happy to report that after a full day, 49% of the voters did the right thing and said, you got to roll the dice. You've been doing it. It's been working out great. It's provided you this fun little campaign. Trust the dice. Roll them bones. 47% of people said they should really hook up. Get two rangers in the same party. Spend some time prowling around the wilderness. And like 2% of people said, no, keep running Aragoon solo. So turning our attention to the dice, we have to take a look at a couple of things. It does say here, or morale check if appropriate. Immediate attack or hostile immediate action or morale check. Reaction is determined by rolling percentile adjusting for charisma and applicable loyalty adjustment as if the creature or henchman. Okay, so what that means is, and hi guys in the chat, I'm going to work my way through this and then we'll go check in on the chat, see what you guys are talking about, and I'll thank all of y'all for showing up. The question then becomes, who's reacting to whom? Because that's going to make a difference here, right? Now normally you would have if you're sitting behind the DM screen, right, we've got it propped up like this. This is where we roll the dice so we can fake it, but we don't do that because we're genuine gamers and we don't fudge dice. The players you would roll to see how the NPCs, be they monsters or hirelings, react to the actual players' characters. Well, we don't have those here. we're standing with our feet 1 foot on either side of the DM screen line. So who's the active party? And there's two ways to do this, I think. I think you have to decide that either, I mean, there's a couple of different ways to think about it. Well, Aragoon's been around longer, so the new guys are the NPCs. Or you could say, well, the new guys outnumber Aragoon, so we have to find out, maybe it's the stronger looking force gets to force the weaker force to react. Alternatively, we can roll the dice. On an even number, we will roll to see how Aragoon reacts. On an odd number, we'll roll to see how the new guys react to Aragoon. So that's some of the options that you have at your disposal as a solo wargamer. The one thing I'll say is every time you have a decision point like this, you're best off just outlining the possibilities, coming to a decision, and when you have something like this, jot it down if you've got time, or at least, like in my case, I just say it in the video. And that way, you don't say, well, I'll roll some dice. Oh, look, I rolled a 1. Well, I know what that means. It means, now let me say what the evens and odds are. No, you don't do that. You decide what dice you're rolling, what your probabilities are, chart it out if you have to, and then you roll the dice. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and check in on the live chat. Bullet Catcher is around, just south of Nashville. Beautiful country. We ran a war game down there, right? We had a fight between Nashville and Kingston, I think it is. But Nashville was distracted by stuff way off to the side to kind of make it a fair fight. Nashville was just fighting like a 6-front war, and that's what made it fair. And actually, Nashville lost, to be honest with you. We're also coming driving to Massachusetts. Drive safe, from G. Don't watch the screen so much. There's not a whole lot to look at anyway. Jeremy Herndon has to go to work in 5 hours. Jeremy. Well, hey, there's YouTube channels. Dartmart checking in from Houston, and Jeremy, let's see, normally work closing shifts. Well, that's some personal stuff. We'll avoid that. If you guys in the future are listening, you can go down to the thing here and hit more, and then say, show me the live chat, and make sure you're looking at all of the chat, not just what YouTube thinks is the best. Jeremy Herndon, is there a place to check out the campaign to the north? A different YouTube channel, blog, Twitter post? Who is reacting to whom is an intriguing question for solo play. Jeremy, there is, and for the life of me, I can't remember. Check back in tomorrow. I'll throw a link into the description. It's run by, if you are active on x.com, you want to start following Fluid the Druid. He is one of the most knowledgeable guys around when it comes to AD&D. When I have a difficult question, I go to him. The rest of the guys in the Broas are, if Brian, Fluid's real, the player that runs Fluid, his first name is Brian. And if Brian doesn't know the answer, it's not worth knowing. He's one of those giants that, not MA, Holy Mass. Oh, wait, you're driving to Mass. Fantastic, Framji. Tom Heaney finally managed to catch a live session. Tom, welcome aboard, brother. We're so glad to have you. It's called I wrote it down here because I didn't want to forget. It's called OASEN Stadt, Ozenstadt. So maybe do a search for that. He's got a little blog where he's detailed a little bit of it, and he's got a lot more elves. He's going with more of an Arctic theme. I've got kind of a dog's breakfast here of all kinds of stuff. No deserts, just grasslands, woods, some broken lands, a little bit of hills and mountains, and then a swamp in either corner. Oddly enough, randomly determined, I got 2 swamps. So we're doing that between 2 swamps. I'm not seeing any guidance from the chat on how we want to roll with this reaction check. The other thing that occurs to me as I'm going through this is you could always decide that, I guess there's a couple of other things we can look at. One is charisma, right? Aragoon only has a 14 charisma. So what does that mean? Well, I don't know. Again, you probably should have said, well, whoever has the highest charisma, we're going to give, in order to maximize the spread of possibilities, you could have Aragoon reacting to these guys. That way his bonus is going to be smaller, and that shuts down some of the... so now Dice Tales has a very good question. Let me finish the thought. If you use the lower one, the lower charisma, then you'll have a smaller bonus for the reaction, and you will have you won't have closed out those, like, well, here. This is fairly basic. I know you guys know this, but for those who are checking in later, when you look at this reaction chart, it's written such that the adjusted die score, the lower it is, the more hostile you are. So if you use, I know I've got a paladin in the new guys, so you're at plus 35, that closes out violently hostile and hostile immediate action. Like, the worst that'll happen is uncertain. Maybe you like that, but I like to have as big a spread as possible because it allows more room for surprises. Surprises are good. We like surprises. We don't want to write if I wanted to decide what happens for myself, I would just write it down and send you the script. But I actually think I like Dice Tales' idea. What we should do is find out, what do the new guys think of Aragoon, and what does Aragoon think of the new guys, right? To chart that, we also have to look at, Aragoon is a, did we declare what his, oh boy, we have to go to the player's handbook, don't we? This is the easy part of today's video, by the way. The next part is going to be even more challenging. Rangers have to be non-evil, do they not? Rangers are a subclass. They must be of good alignment, although they can be lawful, chaotic, or neutral. So we'll just make him neutral good. I think that's pretty fair for this guy. And our new guys are pretty much always going to be lawful good. They have paladins, and that's how you got to roll with those guys. So the highest charisma for the new... Wait, that's my dwarfs. I'm not worried about my dwarfs right now. Where's the new guys? There we go. This is the Steiner brothers. The Steiner brothers have a highest charisma of 17. These guys are all going to be somewhere in the order of lawful good. Oh, right. Skippy is chaotic good. That's their thief. It's Bron, Rick, and Scotty Steiner, and then the kid brother... Actually, is he the kid brother? He's not the youngest, is he? He's like the middle child. Those middle child, they're weird. It said the middle son. Yeah. Skippy, he's very goth. Call me Deathstalker. Not until you notch that backstab. Fluid the Druid, because I can't find him. Who's making the proposal? The reaction rolls to the proposal? Well, that's the thing, Blaine. We don't know, right? We're kind of in uncharted waters here. Gary doesn't provide any real guidance on solo wargaming. We have to use our 40 years of experience. And so with a 14 charisma, it's going to be plus 5. Oh, it's going to be plus 10. I should have some scrap paper around here somewhere, shouldn't I? Yeah, boy, I'm going to use the backside. So Aragoon is at a plus 10 for the reaction, and the new guys with a charisma of 17 are going to be at plus 30. There we go. And then you take a look in the DMG you have to look at the loyalty stuff for the henchmen, which of course is not located near the reaction chart. That would be too easy. Gary trusts us. He thinks we're smart enough to flip back to page 37. And these are not henchmen, so we don't have to worry about those, but we do have the alignment factor. So you've got lawful good guys talking to chaotic good is going to be at a minus 5. So we're just going to knock 5 off of each of those. Lawful evil to the lawful neutral is 1 place removed. And then special considerations, I don't think any of these really apply. Liege dead, liege is oars to combat, hit dice or level of dead friendlies. We're not really in that portion here. We're not inhuman and heartless, sorry. Cruel and domineering. I mean, this is really just, is there anything else? Antipathy? Racial preference won't apply. They're all humans. And most of these are like events. So the only other thing we could do is associated length of association. Yeah, none of that really does. So we're just going to knock 5% off of each of those reactions, which I wrote down on the scrap paper. Oh, here we go. Trying to do this on a table that's 2x4 is always fun. 2 feet by 4 feet. So it's actually going to be plus 5 and plus 25. But then you have to figure out, look, if if Aragoon is hostile, is he going to attack the 4 guys? I don't think so. Are the 4 guys going to attack Aragoon when he's just trying to make his way back home? I don't think so. We're on the road. We're heading to Corvusberg. I just don't think that's legit. I think, maybe if that racial preference, maybe we give another plus. Well, okay. So here's a funny thing. Because we have a 5% bonus, like the worst that'll happen is hostile with immediate action. Not immediate attack, immediate action. Even with that miserable plus 5%. What they'll do is they'll just chase him off. They'll say, we're the bros. We stick together. Get out of here. And that will be their attitude towards Aragoon, basically for the rest of the campaign, or until Aragoon, comes up with some reason to change that. Who's making the proposal? Well, what proposal, right? Again, some of these guys, some of the guys that come back and watch this later on, they really are stuck in a narrative framework, that the narrative comes first, and how do we shove the dice into that narrative? That's not what we're doing here. We've got a situation where 2 parties, 1 versus 4, Dice Tales. You could just role play. This is after a role playing game. No, it is a war game. It says on the chart here, information, game referees. Wait, where is it? Oh, that's in the AD&D. It says it's a war game. We're not doing it that way. And I've been reliably assured by very boring people that there's no wrong way to play this. And so which is of course wrong itself. You're a D&D player. This book is for you. I don't know. It's probably in here somewhere. I'm not going to worry too much about it. I don't. Have you ever sat at a table where the DM has his like NPC and the other NPC is talking, and you have to watch the guy play both sides, kind of double-fisted role-playing, and it's like watching a play, and you just want to start a shotgun? I've been in that situation all too often. Frequently at conventions, I'm like, bruh, I didn't drive 4 hours and spend $40 to get in here to watch this stringy-haired goober do all the role-playing. Just roll some dice, and that's what we're doing here. I don't need to know what the ins and outs are. I just need to know what these guys think of each other. So Aragoon so we're going to do it both ways. We're going to say Aragoon bumps into these 4 brothers that are headed back to Corvusberg, and he pumps them in for information, and he tries to get a positive reaction out of them, but because he has low charisma, he only has a +5 on the die. So we get a 67, which is a 72, so they are uncertain, but prone towards positive. Okay, so the Steiner brothers are like, who's this cool guy? Yeah, actually, I'm sorry. Aragoon is headed back to town. They're headed back. And he's like, whoa, cool pelt, guys. And they're like, yeah. And maybe he has some advice. I just got done training up. I forgot. Aragoon is 3rd level now. He sees 4 chump brothers. And now the 4 chump brothers have to decide what they think. Wait, hold on. So I rolled for the 5% bonus. The brothers kind of like him. Now I have to find out what he thinks of the brothers. And in this case, the brothers are going to have a +25. And Aragoon with a 67, we rolled the exact same result for both of those guys. That's bonkers, man. What are the odds? The odds that we roll the exact same result are actually all about 1%. Actually less than that, because with +25, the brothers could roll more, but I'm not going to bore you with the details. Long story short, better than you think. With the 67, they're both uncertain, but 55% prone towards positive. So both of these guys, and I think this is really kind of that, this answers that Aragoon is going to continue on his own. Oh, I thought there was some trading going on, not purely the initial meeting. Brian, this is the first time we've had a PC party run into another PC party, that they were both in the same hex at the same time. So we haven't had to grapple with this issue yet. And I think we successfully have. That these guys now know each other. They exchange some information, right? It says we're more than likely, we're prone towards positive in both cases, but our boys need to go sell that pelt. They're on a mission. They're going to go do that. Aragoon is trying to get back, and Aragoon gets some information about where they found their pelt. He's like, wait. We have 2 different places where giant weasels are located. Over here in this hex, this is Aragoon's stomping grounds. Our boys' stomping grounds are kind of in this area right here, and the weasels actually are right up in. Wait, where are they? I can't remember. This is why we keep good notes. Giant weasels. There's a weasel lair right here in this hex. So Aragoon will have the possibility of saying, "Oh yeah, no." He's like, "Oh wow, did you find a castle?" And they're like, "What castle? We just found their nest up to the northwest of the Long Lake." And Aragoon says, "Okay, whew, okay, good. I can go back over and I can finish exploring the Broken Lands, and I don't have to worry about those guys poaching my baby giant weasels. Because remember, if he can kill Mama Papa Weasel and stun and subdue the baby weasels, he's going to have baby weasels that will grow up into giant weasels that will make for some pretty powerful allies. Maybe we can go full Beastmaster with Aragoon. That's it. So it took us 20 minutes to get through that. And that was just, what do these guys think of each other? I'll have to make some notes. In fact, here's what my notes look like. Maybe a little bit behind on this one. This is my general timeline here. Up through the second, yeah, Dinky, Ronnie, and 3 mooks. So I don't think I've spelled out. Yeah, I'm a little behind. I'm only up through the second. Today's the 12th. So I got to do that other dwarf delve. I want to detail that. I need to detail where our goblins came from, because that's the next thing we're going to look at. And we're not going to roll a whole lot of dice today, guys. We've done most of the dice rolling that we're going to. Instead, I want to turn our attention to the dwarves and the goblins. Again, just to refresh our memory, we encountered a dwarf patrol down in the Ligmatic Cloister, which is located in the center of this hex right here. That's the Ligmatic Cloister. At the end of the road, about 8 miles distant, is Romek Zoden. That's a K. I always want to say it's an N. Romek Zoden. On the way back from the last delve, our 4 dwarven buddies found Goblin Town, which is right here. And we rolled. Now, for those of you that haven't seen it, I did a quick YouTube short where I hashed out, well, what does this goblin encounter really look like? Our dwarves ran away. They were close enough to home that they were able to get away without too much trouble. They had captured 14 goblins who surrendered to them. They were marching the goblins back to Dwarf Town when they were ambushed by a big party of goblins who were too far away to catch the dwarves. I did check to see if the goblins, so here's our goblin faction, and I printed this up on a fresh piece of paper. We checked. Oh, they're in their lair. What does that mean? There are, 80 of them. I rolled, and I got a lot of really low numbers. So this goblin faction has 80 goblins in the tribe. Now, our dwarves killed 13 of them, meaning they're down to 67 goblins. But those goblins have 17 wolves with them. They also have a leader who's a 1 hit die monster. They've got 4 bosses, 1 hit die monster, and then there's the 67 goblins. Because they're in their lair, they have a chief. He's a 2 hit die monster. That chief had 5 bodyguards, and they have the 17 wolves. That's the wolves that we have up here. So not a particularly big. In fact, it's small enough that. Well, hang on. Let's ask an important question here. Chief plus 5. Right. How did our slow dwarves get away from the wolves? Well, either the wolves weren't around, or the dwarves did that thing where they've got all these goblins strung together, they're roped together by their hands, and they pushed half of them off the cliff. So half of them are dangling, the other half are losing their grip as they're sliding down, and the wolves and goblins had to break off the chase to save their 14 friends. Because of that, there are still 67 goblins here. Our dwarven adventurers, the 4 of them, make it back to Romek Zoden, and they report, hey, there's a goblin town over here. We should go do something about that. This is one of those cases where, why aren't you rolling reaction checks? And the answer is because the reason I started doing this solo AD&D play in the first place is that I wanted to show you how this style of gaming can spontaneously and organically generate mass battles, the kind of things that we would typically play out with a miniature war game, but we don't. But we have a miniature war game, kind of a miniatureless miniature war game. You might have heard of it. It's called AD&D. So where I'm driving at here is, I want to fight a battle. I want to fight a big battle. Now, it's not a huge battle because, as I said, we've only got a total of, okay, so it's 5, 10, 11. We've only got 78 goblins and 17 wolves. 78 goblins, 17 wolves. And they're going up against a dwarf town, which is a lot bigger. Okay, but the dwarf town's got a lot going on, right? The dwarf town is, it's 2.5 times the size, 240 dwarves, plus all these like heroic orcs, plus our, so how do we do this? And I think narratively you say, let's just fight out a combat between a lot of goblins and a lot of dwarves. Now the dwarves are going to be on the offensive here. They know that these goblins have treasure type C down in Goblin Town. The dwarves are going to go try to take the goblin treasure. And what the dwarves have going for them, well, first let's talk about this. The goblins get wind of it and they say, yeah, we're going to go. The goblins may not know what's going on with this new, this mini fort that the dwarves have created. We have posited that there's a dwarf nation that sent these guys to reclaim the ancient, like, Moria-style dungeon of the Ligmatic Cloister. Doesn't really matter. What we do know is that the goblins aren't going to sit there waiting to get attacked. They're going to send everybody they can out. So here's what we do. So we're just going to, today, let's just figure out the order of battle. I'm going to use a 1 to 10 figure ratio. So just from inspection, I can see that we've got a leader and 4 one-hit die bosses. That gives me 5 leaders. And with those 5 leaders, I can make 5 10-man units of mace-armed goblins. And to keep it simple, we just have all of our goblins armed with maces. I know this is really more of a Morning Star. And our goblins, I don't think, have shields. Maybe we give them shields to make this a more difficult fight. Everybody fights. Now, that's only 50 guys. That still leaves, well, it's these guys plus 67. Figure 1 to 10. Maybe what we need to do is, well, it's actually only 45 of these, leaving us with 15, 22 left over. So I think what we do is we just promote a couple. And when I say promote a couple, what you have to understand about this is we are going to make a lot of simplifying assumptions. You could, if you had enough dice and enough patience, plot out the locations and movement of every single one of these 80 goblins. Dice Tales asks about wolf riders. I rolled for it, didn't get it. They don't have any wolf riders. They just have a whole lot of wolves. We're going to make some simplifying assumptions for these guys to make this gameable. And one of those assumptions is going to be that in addition to these units with the leader and his 4 bosses, that's only 45. I got 22 left. All right, so I'm going to leave behind a home guard. And that home guard is going to consist of 2 goblins. Oh, except, you know what? I forgot about this. You've actually got a chief and 5 guards and a leader and 4 bosses. So that's a total of 11 guys. But I only need, let's see, divide 6 by 9, let's see, 9 times 7. I'm going to wind up with 7. Oh, no, I know that's right. I know what I was thinking. What we have is a chief and 5 guards with 2 hit dice. So I'm going to have 7 10-man units of mace goblins led by a 1 hit die. Now, because they have these leaders, we're going to call this 1 minus 1 hit die for each of these units. And then I'm going to have my 1 unit, a 10-man unit, with the chief. So I've reduced my 80 guys down to 8 figures. And let's see, 63. That's going to leave 4 goblins left over for the home guard. In addition to the 4 goblins, we're going to do the same thing for the wolves. We've got 17 large wolves. So we're going to have 1 unit of 10 wolves And now we've got a much more manageable number with 7 wolves left over. Now, why am I worried about this home guard? The answer to that is that as this is a diversionary strike on the part of the dwarves, we're going to send our 4-man specialists, Killy, Gimme, Groin, and Soren. They're going to go, and we're going to get them in position that they can attack the home guard. So they're going to have to fight their way through this, which is a pretty tall order, but I think they're up for it. We may give them some reinforcements. This is our order of battle for the wilderness fight for the goblins. This is our order of battle on that secondary battlefield for the quote other guys. So now let's take a look at our dwarves. And I'm not going to play this battle. I just don't have time tonight. It's already late. The dwarves of Romic Zodin have a lot going on. The question then becomes, how many of these resources are they willing to risk to make this happen? We have a total of 232 dwarves. We know the enemy has 80 to 90. Do we want to go with a 2-to-1 ratio? And I think that's the smart play. That means we have to pull out 180 of our dwarves. We can up the odds a little bit more by sending the Kutamaral, that's a level 6 level fighter, 6 level cleric, to provide some spell-based support. All right, and now I think we leave Uthar Telrikus back at home, and he says, hey, Lieutenant Urist, this is your chance. You two are going to lead a strike force. And then we've got some bosses and heroes and champions here. This is going to help us out as well. And then we've got some typical patrols. So if our order of battle goes, Lieutenant Urist is a fighter 4, is the commander. All right, and he's going to have a 6/6 fighter cleric, and we'll give him our lesser champion, our fighter 5 champ, and that gives us some pretty heavy hitting. We've got 3 heroes on the board compared to none for the goblins, and that's going to tilt the scales pretty well. Then we're going to put some skin in the game by assigning the 2, 2, and 3 to this fight. But they're going to be leaders of, call them 30-man units. Let's call them 40-man units, actually. So if we pull out 40 dwarves, that is 4 by 10-man units, and they're going to be led by a fighter 2. We're going to pull out another 40, and that's going to be 4 by 10, which equals a fighter 2. That's our boss. And we're going to have 40 dwarves. That's 4 by 10, and they're going to be led by a 3rd level fighter, and that's going to come into play in the battle in some ways. And it's actually, now that I think about it, it's going to be 4 by 9 for each of these. So 4 by 9, 9, and 9. And that gives us a total of 12 by 9. That's going to be 108 dwarves. So they've got 28 dwarves advantage. Maybe we want to make this 5. Because if we have 3 different units of 45 dwarves each, then that gives us a plus 50% plus our champions and heroes. So 45, 45, that's going to be 135, 135, and 135. All right, get that all written out, and this is what our order of battle is going to look like. I'm also going to do one other thing. I'm going to declare that since they're marching into battle, these dwarves, we're going to use the standard profile. They're going to be carrying spears, and that may be one thing we do. We can have these guys will be carried. Well, let's take a look. When we factored out, when we did our whole ratio here for our dwarves, we have a hammer and pick, sword and spear, and axe and mace. So we're going to have, these guys are going to be hammers. This unit is going to be sword and spear. And this last unit will be axe and shield. So we've got 3 different units, 5 guys. And when we do our battle, we are going to, like I said, quick episode tonight. When I've got enough time at some point this week, we'll sit down and do the whole fight. And then we can do a fight with, oh, I know what I was thinking. I don't like the prospects of our 4 first-level dwarves going up against the 4 goblins and 7 wolves. So we're going to have our dwarf party. And why don't we go ahead and send another NPC along with them? We can send, who's going to be here? Our fighter 5? We're going to send our hero, our 4th level fighter, and he wields a hammer and pick. And now, now what we've got here is, if this hammer unit gets wiped, they're going to lose that 2nd level fighter. If the action shield guys get wiped, if for whatever reason these guys all go down, then we're going to lose our 3rd level fighter, and we are gambling that our 4th level fighter means that 4th level dwarven fighter with a hammer and pick will be able to tip the scales when in our incursion against the home guard, trying to sniff out the treasure type C. Okay, does that make sense? And just like that, we've got ourselves a nice big battle that's manageable, because we don't have to roll that many dice. It's still going to be a fairly substantial battle. You've got 9 guys. Right? These wolves have a different profile. These wolves are going to be flying all over the place. We're going to have to deal with things like flank attacks. Those wolves at 15 inches, they're going to be able to go over here and then come and hit somebody in the flank. We're going to have to watch out for those. Our dwarves are real stunty. They're really slow. So once the battle is joined, the goblins are going to be able to dictate the flow of the battle. The real kicker is going to be the fact that we're using the combat system as it is written. And I have it dog-eared, but it's not dog-eared. I have a pink bookmark here that's doing me no good. They're going to be meeting in the mountains. That means the initial distance for our meeting engagement is going to be, it's going to be anywhere from, first we'll roll for surprise. Is either party surprised? Maybe this is the other thing we need to do so we can figure out some scraps. Do you want to roll that right now, guys? We can figure out on that first what the distance is. What do we got here? Checking the chat. Good morning from the Midwest. Hey, good morning, morning shifters. Hey, Nathan. Sovereign Bossman. I was sitting in some kind of bad preview on my own end and didn't notice. Yeah, sometimes I get done setting one up and then I go to get a decent picture for the thumbnail for these live casts, and I have to do a little bit of editing. And when I come back, that weird preview is still there. There's no way to delete that. I don't know where it comes from. It's very annoying. I think I have to go to my desktop. Let's see. Catching up with the solo series. Hoping to be able to watch these live without spoilers soon. We'll stop watching now because this is going to be pretty important. I'm going to go ahead and roll for distance and surprise so that we can actually see what that starting position is. And I have to roll for surprise first. And there's no rangers involved here. So for the dwarves, they're not surprised with a 3. And for the goblins, 3. Now, do goblins have any of those funky only surprised on situations? Let me open up my monstrous manual. Oh, this is not the monster. It's the monster manual, not the monstrous manual. Let's see. The other thing we have to decide is, you know what? It's going to be full daylight. That's the other advantage that the dwarves are going to have. The dwarves will attack in daylight. It's going to be a day fight. I think it kind of depends on the weather. If it's cloudy, then the goblins might not have that -1. Maybe I'll wait for the cloudy day to fight this just to make it a little more fair. For every 40 goblins, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, there's nothing like that. Goblins are typically armed with, they're fair miners. So if they surrender, they may want to begin put to work in the Dwarven mines. Yeah, nothing new there. So now we just have to figure out distance. And we'll wait until we fight the battle to figure out who has the initiative. To determine distance, when you are outdoors, you are going to roll 6d4, but we don't have surprise, okay? In addition to shortening encounter distance, in addition to that, modify terrain will also modify. Scrub, forest, marsh. Plains, desert, hills, mountains do not alter encounter distance unless one of the three modifying types of terrain also exists. Well, we're in the mountains, for sure. Like, these are hills, and the mountains come slashing down like that. So at 6d4, I get a 3, 4, another 4 is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 16. So they're going to be 160 feet away. Well, excuse me, 160 inches away. Because, I'm sorry, 160 inches. They're going to be 16 inches away, which equals 160 yards away. That is what our battle is going to look like. And we know from an inspection of the map that the dwarves are going to be coming from the northeast, and the goblins will be coming from the northwest. And now we have a battle that we can fight. It's going to be a fairly involved one. Now, and here's one of the big reasons I want to punt. I want to take a little bit of time to do some prep. And by prep, I just mean I want to put together like a cheat sheet for the goblins, similar to what we do for the player characters, and a roster for the dwarves, so I know exactly how many, and I can put little boxes down. But the one thing I'll tell you that we're going to do, we are using a 1 to 10 figure ratio. And that means that, see, take a look. The leaders, we are at 1 minus 1 hit dice. So for each of these figures, I'm going to assign hit points. And for each of these figures, I'm going to assign hit points. And instead of rolling 10 times, when these mace boys, can we expect the first actual use of miniatures for this? No, it's not even going to be grid map, guys. We're going to go full theater of the mind, okay? Like not even grid map. Maybe we'll do a blank piece of paper just to sketch out real quick. Like, okay, so we're going to have our goblin line here, and our wolves are going to start back here because they're further away, and we'll put like an extra, so it's 160, it's 16 inches, right? And maybe our wolves are going to be back another 4 inches, so that when we've got 1, 2, and 3 dwarves, then where are our heroes? Our cleric is back here, and our leader is going to be up here, kind of sealing the gap, so that when these lines meet, we'll have to figure out who's attacking who. Now remember, this is 5 dwarves and 5 dwarves and 5 dwarves versus 7, and then, maybe we'll put the leaders over here, right? This is the 1 hit die. And these are all 1 minus 1, and here's our wolves. And we may just kind of sketch it out like that. That's all you got to do. But the big thing I want to impress upon you is that because we have 10 figures, I need to go back and look, and this is part of it. It's been a busy weekend. I want to refresh my memory of the rules, but essentially, when I have 7, what do I have? I have 7 of these guys. I don't have to roll 70 dice. I just have to roll 7 times. I've got 7 attacks by these goblin mace men, and I go 1, oh look, I got 1 hit, right? Just like we do in the regular 3, 4, 5, 6. There's another one, and then 7. Okay, so I got 2 hits. Now I got to figure out, was that hit on these guys, or these guys? Well, I'll roll for that, right? And they're going to do D6 damage. And did 4 points. Okay, so I hit these guys. How many hit points do these guys have? I got 10 guys that are hitting 10 guys. If I do enough damage to eliminate 1 figure, then the dwarves have lost 10 guys. That's going to be important. Then you go through that with the counterattack and charging and all the normal rules. You go through the morale rules. Our wolves, like the plan of attack here, I think we want to get our wolves onto that 6/6, right? I think the grid map would help fee 100%. I feel like Theater of the Mind may remove some elements as the size of certain enemies or creatures will be forgotten. Uh, I, you're not wrong. Okay, I'm not. I don't have a good counter argument. A grid map might help 100%, but the objective for today is just to illustrate that this is all you need to do, and you can have some fairly epic battles. If we have a hit and these guys get reduced to 4, that's significant because our dwarves only have 232 boys. And so while I think this is a pretty foregone conclusion that the dwarves are going to win against the goblins, we'll have to stick a pin in it, and we have to go see what happens over on that. Remember, this is a diversionary attack, as these guys, there's going to be a separate battle, and you could even, if you were at your own table, I would say, hey, why don't me and Bill run the main battle, and Joe and Carl run this battle, and we can do it simultaneously. What happens on yours versus mine, turn by turn. It's too complicated for me, especially with you guys looking over my shoulder. I don't want to miss anything. So what we may do is fight this battle to a conclusion, see how long it takes. Fight this battle to a conclusion, see how long it takes. See if there's a chance for reinforcements from the dwarves here to get to here. And we can figure out how far that is before either of these battles. I think the battle will be fought 6d6 inches. 1, 2, that's 10, 16, 21, 22, 23, 22. This is 227 inches from Goblin Town. All right, and so at that point we can decide that our incursion, they're going to be racing to get back, but this is, if they start like 6 inches back, it's going to be about 36 inches of movement. Moving at 6 inches, it's going to take 6 turns for these guys to even get it into the action for those other dwarves, right? 6 turns of movement would be, well, if it's straight 27, let's make it 8, because you're going to have to sneak around, and they're dwarves. They know their way around the mountains and the hills. So after 8 turns, they're going to be able to hit Goblin Town. If this fight takes longer than 8 turns, there won't be any reinforcements for these guys, and we'll have to do a straight fight. Again, our 4th level fighter could die from the dwarves, which would impact this roster. That said, you may achieve acceptable losses if you get away with a huge pile of loot. Treasure type C is nothing to sneeze at, and if Chief Uthar Telrekis can send back a huge pile of loot, maybe the Dwarven Nation will send him another 500 guys, and we can do a fight against everybody's favorite. They can do a major incursion against the Kaisorks boys, the Landskenorts. It's not enough to win the battle. You have to win the battle as efficiently as possible. Whether or not they do that, I don't know. We'll have to play the game and find out. What it's all about, guys, rolling those dice, letting the tale come to you, and maybe the dwarves take a drubbing. Wouldn't be the first time a group that outnumbered its enemy 2-1 lost the battle. Believe me, I've played enough miniature war games. I've seen it happen, and all too often to me, hey, that's it. I gotta rack out, man. It's late here. Love you guys. Thanks for playing along. Talk at you later. I'm praying for you.